Hello, everyone. I'm Van Scholes. I'm the president of A Plus Colorado, and I'm here with Mike Miles. I'll let Mike introduce himself, and then we have a few questions around how he and his schools are pivoting in this crisis. So, Mike?
Hi, everybody. I'm Mike Miles. I'm the CEO of a small network of charter schools called Third Future Schools. We have two schools in Colorado Springs, one in Aurora, and we just signed up to run a school in Midland, Texas. I've been an educator for a while, was a former superintendent of Dallas ISD and also Harrison School District in Colorado Springs. And before that was a teacher, principal, educator, several other things.
Well, great. Well, thanks for taking the time. I know how busy you are at this time. And just wondering if you could sort of give a very brief overview of how you all are responding, how schools are responding to this new remote learning.
Sure. So we, before the schools were closed, had decided that, had suspected that the schools would close fairly quickly. So we started to put together a plan to do e-learning, and we're able to do training for a couple days before not only were the schools closed, but then we had to meet in smaller groups and couldn't meet as a whole staff. So we actually had 2 days to really turn this from really high quality direct instruction and differentiated instruction in the classroom to what we think is the way to go with regard to e-learning. For us, that means we do live teaching, we do a schedule. So our students, for example, start at 9 o'clock. They have 4 1 hour and 15-minute classes that are on a schedule. And the teacher teaches live for the most part. And they still break into chat rooms and are able to work together. But the big difference is the e-learning for us means live teaching. We have quizzes. We have 5 quizzes before the end of the school year planned, and a final exam. We will be giving grades for this quarter, but they won't hold a child back from being promoted. We will be suggesting summer school for some students, though, if they're way behind. And we know that our direct instructions really has helped us gain a lot of student growth in a short amount of time. We suspect that we'll have a little learning loss, but we're trying to prevent a lot of learning loss in this next couple months and over the summer. So that's what we've been doing since a couple weeks ago, and we'll carry that through the rest of the year.
What's been the easiest part of this pivot, and what's been the hardest part of this pivot?
I don't know about too many easy parts. I guess the easy part is that our teachers know the content really well. They're very motivated. They know our kids, and they've been able to dive in and really adjust the way the teaching goes. So, I mean, there's a learning curve for all of our teachers, to be sure. But the fact that they are really high quality teachers to begin with makes it a little easier. Again, and the footnote there is that nothing's easy about this. The hard parts, though, are in 2 of our schools, we have almost a one-on-one laptop initiative. So almost everybody is able to check out a Chromebook and get online if they want to. Now, some of those students don't have internet access at home, so that's a challenge. At the academy, the school in Aurora, we don't have enough Chromebooks. So we've been checking out as many as we can. We just got in another 50 Chromebooks to them. We have another couple hundred coming next month. but we didn't have 750 Chromebooks. So most of them now have Chromebooks or smartphones that they can use for the e-learning. But we've had many of them have to pick up packets at the school. So our school's been open from 10:30 to 1:30 every day for people to pick up packets and lunches and things like that.
Great. And how, one of the things that we've heard from a number of schools and districts is sort of the enormous need in terms of social and emotional support for families and for kids in this time. And just wondering how you guys are thinking about that and approaching that, and what's different compared to sort of regular school on that front.
So we not only have students who need regular services, um, and our special ed teachers, our counselors, our reading interventionists, everybody's chipping in to help call kids and make sure they're doing okay. Our teachers have learning coaches assigned, our specials teachers are assigned to teachers, and all of our students get an individual call every week, and several calls every week, that depending on their need. So we actually are spending the time, because we're not offering all of the electives and all of the courses that we would during the regular year. We are now using that time to call kids and using the teachers to call students. So our art teachers helping out, our PE teachers helping out. And so we know we have to touch base with all of our kids, not just about academics, of course, about all the other things that's going on in their lives.
Right. And how are you, I know that, a lot of teachers are also struggling, or staff, because they have kids at home too. And so juggling doing their jobs and doing all of this. And so just also curious around supports for all of the folks and all the adults in your school, and how to support them and supporting kids.
So that's been a challenge, to be sure. We've run the schedule so that every teacher, let's say fourth grade math, and by the way, we're a K-8 school, so it's a little bit different than if we had high schoolers. Let's say your fourth grade math teacher, you're only online teaching 2 hour and 15-minute courses. And then because we're able to have more kids in the course, in the classroom, because of online, and that in that way we've also been able to free up a little bit of time for the teacher to prepare for it, learn, call kids or parents, and so they have a little bit more time. But I'm telling you, it doesn't feel like a lot more time, because there's a learning curve for kids. For example, the first couple of weeks, teachers have been spending answering parent phone calls and student phone calls about just how to get into Google Classroom. Even though we've produced videos and we've had instructions go out, it's still, there's going to be people who call in and want to know how to get on, or something breaks, or the password doesn't work, or something like that. So they've been fielding a lot of those calls, and a lot of those social emotional calls, right? So mom or dad or someone calling and saying, hey, how can I, my child isn't responding to this, so how can I do this? Or my child is having trouble managing the stress of this, and so is there a different way that we can do work together? And so there's been a lot of calls the first couple of weeks to every teacher. And so I think over time that will balance itself out. It already has a little bit, and then teachers can spend most of their time getting ready for their lessons.
Great. Great. What would be helpful coming from school districts, the state, even A plus, in terms of supporting you all in this really incredibly important work, and understanding how challenging it is?
Yeah, not so much for the network, my network, but just education broadly. Um, I There has to be a lot of support and there has to be empathy for what teachers are going through. At the same time, I think the the community, the larger ecosystem, educational ecosystem, has to keep at least bringing attention to the fact that we need to do what we can do to mitigate a learning loss during this time. And that while we want to take care of teachers and we want to take care of kids, at the end of the day, we still need most kids to get a great, actually, not most, all kids to get a great education or the best education possible. That's how I would put it right now. And to not really work hard to provide students with academics and a rigorous as we can, I think we're selling them short. And I also think that we should not just accept that, okay, we've lost a quarter. You know, we've lost a quarter of learning, and summer we're going to lose, 2 or 3 months of learning, and that's just the way it is because we're in unique times. That's one way of looking at it, and I just don't agree with that because in the end of the day, we hurt kids even more. So the larger ecosystem now should be pressing all of us to really think hard about how we do summer school differently and how we and it costs money to do summer school, so I get it. We're also trying to raise money to do a more rigorous summer program, and I think all of us need to think hard about doing that. The other big thing the ecosystem should be thinking about in my mind is what is the opportunity to advance reform and think of reimagine education as a result of this crisis. We needed to do that before the crisis, reimagine education, think about how we can look at the educational system and get different outcomes for kids, close the achievement gap, prepare for the year 2030, think about those year 2030 competencies, really think hard about equity and how we prioritize resources. These are major issues just before the crisis, right? So the worst thing that could happen, I think, in education broadly is we get to August or September or whenever we get to go back to school and all the districts kind of say, okay, wait, let's get back to normal first, Mr. Miles, and then we'll think about, reform. But let's all get back in our classrooms. Let's all, get in touch back with our curriculum and our schedule, and let's do all that first. And let's take a year, and then we'll think about reform. I'm not sure that's if we do that, we will miss an opportunity to really rethink how education works. And so I think that's the second big thing the ecosystem could really encourage all superintendents to do.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. So impressive how quickly you all have moved, and also understand the enormous challenge that you and everyone else is facing in this difficult time. So thanks for taking a few minutes with us and sharing what you're up to.
Happy to do it. Thanks, Van.
Okay, great. Okay.
All right, bye.